going to the set. It wasn't about the movie stars who came in for a period of time to film their bits and having fun with them. All that was there, but for me it was like going to university for 2 years, where it's a total life experience. And then you add in 5 helicopters that you all go to work on for weeks at a time. In my experience, you have to be either a firefighting, some sort of law enforcement person to have a helicopter, and the President of the United States gets his own helicopter. But the fact that we would have our little hobbit feet put on in the morning for an hour and a half, and then our hobbit ears and our cape, and I get my backpack, and you'd hear bum, 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 bum. Okay, I'm gonna go get in the helicopter and go to work. And it was pretty great. It was a pretty great thing. To work with people who are so talented. I mean, just unbelievably talented people. Like you get at the cons here, the artists who, spend their time drawing, and they have a few minutes, and you look at their work and you think, wow, that's amazing, that's amazing. And we had hundreds of them, and they were working every day. We'd have metallurgist, a blacksmith who would forge the swords. We have the guy who's in charge of making and assembling the chainmail for the orc army. That was a summer for that guy. I remember one day, and I've told this story a lot, but he had a tool that he used to clamp the chainmail together, so you couldn't really undo it. And it was heavy, even though it was plastic or something a little bit between metal and plastic. I don't know what it was, but it was kind of heavy plastic, I guess. You put it on, and it's heavy. You wouldn't want to fall in the water with it on, you'd sink. And so I'm sitting at lunch, and it was always, when we were on location, it was always like the circus had come to town. Because you drive to work early in the morning when it's dark out, and just as you come over the last hill for this remote location you're at, and dawn is breaking, you'd see these tents. Massive tents that was the Lord of the Rings village that had moved to town for that 3 or 4 days or week or whatever it was. And so this one day we're at Mount Ruapehu, and which is the volcano. It was where we did Mount Doom, and it's right outside of Rotorua, the big active volcano. And there was the New Zealand Army had I don't know if they individually volunteered or if the officers had volunteered them. Like, okay, now you're wearing orc. Or like, I signed up to defend my country. I don't know why. Marching around in rubber shoes, but they were there dressed up, and in costume. And I was having lunch, and I was sitting next to a guy I didn't know. There was a lot of people you often didn't know people, which is weird because on a movie usually you know everybody, but people were always coming in and out. And introduced myself, and he introduced himself, and we chatted for a little bit. And I said, so what are you doing with the movie? And he said, and he held up a little link of the chainmail. And he said, I made the chainmail. I said, oh, cool. You designed the chainmail, and how many can you pump out in a week or something like that? Because obviously there were hundreds and hundreds of them. He said, no, I did them all by hand. And I looked at him like, are you out of your mind? How long would it take to do one? He's like, 3 or 4 days. Gee whiz. And I looked up, and I see these links in his hand, and then 300 soldiers wearing full suits of it. And to me, that was a great way to encapsulate what Lord of the Rings was about, because it was that kind of specific, unique talent applied with incredible industry on a massive scale. So that's one of a million stories. But so what was it like to make Lord of the Rings? It was awesome. It was life-changing. It was hard. It was harder for me than I ever would have imagined. I sort of reached my own personal limits, my own breaking point as a human being, because the hours that we worked were so long, and everybody wanted to do it. Everybody would have worked 24 hours a day. If, the only thing stopping you was your own. You have to sleep at some point. The physical body needs sleep. But if it didn't, we would have just kept going. And the crew worked harder than anybody. They would go 6 to 8 weeks and 18-hour days, and really, really, really getting after it, because